Hello everyone, welcome back to Jikook Moments. Yesterday's group live stream, honestly, it left more than just fleeting memories. There was something that lingered in the chest, spinning in the mind, and difficult to put into words. A warm, gentle, and incredibly familiar energy. But there was one thing that was almost impossible to ignore: the way Jimin and Jungkook looked at each other. These were not ordinary glances. Not casual eye contact. These looks lingered a second longer than usual, accompanied by soft smiles, subtle gestures, and a silence that you could only feel if you truly paid attention. Today, we're going to talk about those moments. The small details, almost imperceptible yet so real. Moments that make many of us wonder, what is really happening between them? As mentioned before, there is one thing that is nearly impossible to overlook: the way Jimin and Jungkook look at each other. These were not random glances, nor were they mere eye contact happening by coincidence with the camera on. It was the kind of look that lingers a second longer than it should, followed by small smiles, light gestures, and brief silences you only notice if you pay close attention. A look like that doesn't need explanation. You don't need long theories or layered analyses to understand it. You just need to feel it, and somehow, you instantly know it's real. There was one particular moment that caught my attention. Jungkook, laughing, imitated the way Jimin's father usually calls his name. A tiny, almost trivial detail. Yet as he did it, his eyes never left Jimin. And Jimin, as always, returned the look. They laughed together. Not loud or forced laughter, but a laugh born from a long-standing understanding. It was a simple moment. An everyday moment. Yet within its simplicity was a closeness so natural it was impossible not to notice. Moments like this speak louder than any long speech because they reveal something that cannot be fabricated: trust, affection, and comfort that only emerges when two people are truly connected. And if we talk about yesterday, one thing must be said without exaggeration: Jimin looked incredibly handsome. Truly handsome. His long blonde hair gave him a soft, elegant, almost ethereal look. It wasn't just about the color or length, but how the hair framed his face, softened his features, and radiated a calm yet captivating aura. That appearance instantly brought us back to old memories. To stories we had heard before, which, when reconsidered now, seem even more plausible. One of them is the story of a woman who once saw Jimin and Jungkook at the airport and, without hesitation, assumed Jimin was Jungkook's boyfriend. An anecdote that, far from being exaggerated, becomes fascinating when analyzed calmly. YouTuber Kim Sip-Sup happened to be on the same business trip when they returned from Hokkaido. He shared his experience of seeing them in person, both in the VIP room and on the plane, with surprising detail, yet it felt genuine. He recounted that when he first saw Jungkook, the most striking thing was how small his face looked, how big and round his eyes were, and the strong idol aura, even with a hat and mask. Jungkook's style, according to him, felt natural, effortless, attractive without trying too hard. But the story became far more interesting when he started talking about Jimin. He said that when he first saw Jimin, his facial features were so beautiful that even just seeing his back, he thought Jimin was a woman. He didn't need to see his face. Didn't need to hear his voice. His silhouette, presence, and the way he filled the space, everything was enough. That is a very particular kind of beauty. A beauty that isn't just seen but felt intuitively. He also mentioned seeing a man with a hat and mask pass by. His eyes were stunning, clearly a male idol, and that was Jungkook. Afterward, he moved seats and then saw someone with blonde hair. His first thought was spontaneous. Did the idol come to Sapporo with his girlfriend? Later, after finding out, he realized that person wasn't Jungkook's girlfriend. That person was Jimin. And here comes the question, one that repeatedly crosses the minds of many of us. What exactly did he see that made him so quickly conclude they were a couple? Because there were so many other possibilities. He could have assumed Jimin was staff, a stylist, a team member. But no, his first interpretation was romantic. And that rarely happens without reason. This isn't about fabricating gestures or exaggerating scenes. It's about understanding that sometimes the energy between two people speaks for itself. The way they share space, their closeness, their naturalness. all of this can be perceived from the outside as something more intimate, more personal. Personally, I believe that in those moments, Jimin and Jungkook were simply being themselves. Comfortable, relaxed, with a connection that didn't fade, even in public places like an airport. You don't need to imagine specific actions to understand why someone might assume they're a couple. Just remember how, even in live streams or public appearances, they constantly exude cohesion, a continuous emotional bond that feels genuine. In any situation, Jimin and Jungkook always radiate that special aura, a romantic vibe that isn't exaggerated or forced, but gentle, everyday, almost quiet. And the most fascinating thing about all this is the fact that they are fully aware of that aura. They know how the atmosphere changes when they're together, how everything automatically becomes softer, more intimate. They know their closeness is noticeable to others. Yet instead of avoiding it, they embrace it as a natural part of their dynamic. This was clearly seen in Are You Sure? During the neologism game segment. The word to guess was enami, a term for natural beauty that captivates without makeup. The staff gave a hint, this is what people think about you too. And Jungkook didn't answer as expected. Instead of saying, enami, he replied, as if that isn't already embarrassing enough. A phrase used when something feels too intimate to show publicly. That answer didn't come from confusion. It came from awareness. Jungkook knew what the staff meant. He knew how the public viewed them, not just as two naturally beautiful people, but as two who are too close, too affectionate. That's why he laughed. Because it was funny, but also too obvious. And Jimin, as always, was right at the center of it. He knows how his presence affects the energy around him. He knows how standing next to Jungkook changes the atmosphere. Yet he doesn't shy away. He doesn't hold back. In the end, enami didn't feel enough to describe what happens when they're together. Because it's not just about natural beauty. It's about a magnetic presence together. A constant connection. A romantic aura that emerges effortlessly. And perhaps that's why, whenever Jimin and Jungkook are together, there's something special in the air. Something soft, calm, and quietly romantic that makes anyone watching subconsciously think the same thing. They are truly beautiful together. And that is what makes Jimin and Jungkook so special. They don't need words, exaggerated gestures, or drama to show their closeness. Every smile, glance, and small laugh speaks louder than any long explanation. When they are together, there's something in the air, soft, calm, and quietly romantic. An aura that makes anyone watching without realizing think the same thing. They are truly beautiful together. If you feel the same, don't forget to leave a comment and stay tuned to Jikook Moments.